about to lose access to my daughter because I can't afford the custody lawyer. I just need guidance from someone who understands these things." Victoria looked at Ethan. "Did he tell you what happened?" "Some of it." "Did he tell you this is the 4th time that I've bailed him out of bad investments, gambling debts, and failed business ventures more times than I can count? That every time he promises to change and never does?" Daniel flinched but didn't argue. Ethan felt trapped between them, witness to a family dynamic he had no context for. Victoria's anger was controlled but fierce. Years of frustration compressed into crisp sentences. "I should go," Ethan said, standing. "This is private." "Stay." Victoria's command was gentle but firm. "Your leadership now. You should understand how I handle these situations." She turned back to her brother. "I will not give you money, Daniel. I will not pay your debts or save your house or fund your legal battles. Do you understand?" "Yes." Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "But I will give you something more valuable. I will give you the same thing I gave Ethan 6 months ago. Structure, accountability, a path forward that doesn't involve self-destruction." Victoria moved into the room, her heels clicking with purpose. "You'll meet with my financial advisor tomorrow. You'll create a realistic budget and debt repayment plan. You'll attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice a week. You'll get therapy and you'll report to me monthly on your progress." Daniel stared at her. "Why would you do that after everything?" "Because you're my brother. Because I remember who took care of me after Mom and Dad died before the addiction took over. Because everyone deserves a chance to become someone better than their worst moments." Victoria's expression softened fractionally. "But this is the last time, Daniel. Not the last bailout, the last chance. If you sabotage this, we're done. Truly done. No more calls. No more visits. You'll be a stranger to me." Tears streamed down Daniel's face. "I won't waste it. I swear. We'll see." Victoria pulled out her phone, typed something, then looked back at him. "My assistant will send you the advisor's contact information. First appointment is tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Don't be late." "I won't." "Thank you, Vicky." "Thank you." She nodded curtly. Daniel left, closing the door quietly behind him. Victoria stood motionless for a moment, her control absolute before her shoulders dropped slightly. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," she said without looking at Ethan. "Don't apologize. Family is complicated." That's a generous way to describe enabling an addict for 20 years. Victoria moved to the window, staring out at the city. "My therapist would say, I have boundary issues with Daniel. That I confuse love with rescue. That I keep saving him because I couldn't save David." The admission was startling. Victoria never discussed her personal life, never showed vulnerability. Ethan approached carefully, maintaining respectful distance. "You're giving him tools, not just money. That's different from enabling. Is it? Or am I setting him up to fail again, so I can feel superior in my stability?" Victoria's reflection in the window looked tired. "I spent years in therapy learning to separate my worth from my ability to fix other people's problems. And yet here I am restructuring my brother's life the same way I restructured yours. That's not the same thing. You saw me destroying myself through grief and overwork. You intervened because I needed help I couldn't ask for. That's compassion, not control. Victoria turned to face him. And what if I'm wrong? What if my version of help is just another form of arrogance, deciding I know what people need better than they do? Ethan considered this carefully. 6 months ago, he might have resented the implication. Now, with perspective and distance, he understood the complexity. When you showed up at my door, I was angry, humiliated, terrified. I thought you were destroying my life. He met her eyes steadily. But you were right. I was drowning and calling it swimming. Sometimes people need someone who cares enough to intervene even when it's uncomfortable, even when it risks the relationship. And Daniel, am I right about him? I don't know. But I know you gave him the same thing you gave me. A choice. He can take the structure you're offering and build something better, or he can reject it and face the consequences. That's not control. That's tough love. Victoria studied him for a long moment. You've grown considerably in 6 months, Ethan. Not just professionally. You're thinking more complexly about human behavior. I have a good teacher. He smiled slightly. And a therapist who doesn't let me avoid hard questions. Dr. Chen is excellent. She helped me process David's death when I finally stopped running from it. Victoria returned to her desk, her professional mask sliding back into place with visible effort. Thank you for sitting with Daniel, and clears throat for the perspective. Anytime. Ethan paused at the door. For what it's worth, I think your brother is lucky to have you, even if he doesn't always show it. We'll see if he actually follows through. History suggests he won't. People can change. I am proof of that. After Ethan left, Victoria sat alone in her office as evening shadows stretched across the floor. She pulled up a photo on her computer, one she kept hidden in a private folder. David smiled at her from the screen, young and healthy and whole. Next to him stood a younger Victoria, softer somehow, before grief had honed her into the executive people both admired and feared. I am still trying to save people, she said to the empty room. Still thinking I can fix everything if I just work hard enough. You tell me I'm being ridiculous, that I can't control outcomes, only my intentions. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I won't let you down. She'd heard that before, many times. But she saved the message anyway, hope and skepticism wearing in her chest. The following week, the company announced Ethan's promotion. The response was universally positive. Colleagues congratulated him. Junior analysts sought his mentorship. The executive team welcomed him with the easy camaraderie of equals. At the celebration lunch, Marcus raised his glass to Ethan, the only person I know who got promoted by getting fired first. Laughter rippled around the table. Ethan caught Victoria's eye across the room. She lifted her glass fractionally, acknowledgement passing between them. Later, as the party wound down, Jennifer texted, saw the announcement on LinkedIn. Congratulations. Emma and Lily want to celebrate with ice cream. You free Saturday? Absolutely. My treat. Deal. And Ethan, I'm really proud of you. The words settled warmly in his chest. He'd spent so long measuring success by exhaustion. That praise for balance felt foreign but welcome. That Saturday, the four of them sat at the ice cream parlor, the girls making elaborate sundaes, while the adults opted for simpler choices. Lily was covered in chocolate sauce and joy, chattering about a science project she wanted to build. Daddy, Can we make a volcano? A real one that explodes. We can try. We'll need to research how to do it safely. I can help. Emma volunteered immediately. My uncle's a science teacher. He shows me cool experiments. Jennifer smiled at Ethan over her coffee. These two are going to either win a Nobel Prize or burn down the garage. I'm hoping for the former. Me too. Jennifer's expression turned more serious. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. When did you know you were ready to start living again, instead of just surviving after Sarah died? I mean, Ethan thought about that night 6 months ago, Victoria standing in his doorway with fire and compassion in her eyes. I don't think I knew. Someone else had to tell me. Had to force me to see that I was destroying myself and calling it strength. Victoria, your CEO. Yeah. She showed up at my apartment at midnight, told me I was fired, then restructured my entire life, because she'd been where I was and knew I couldn't save myself. He watched Lily laugh at something Emma said. Best thing anyone ever did for me. Jennifer nodded slowly. I had a similar moment. Emma's teacher, like I mentioned, she pulled me aside and asked if I was okay, and I burst into tears in the school hallway. Just completely fell apart. She sat with me for an hour while I cried about how scared I was, how alone, how certain I was failing at everything. What did she say? That grief isn't failure. That asking for help isn't weakness. That Emma needed me whole more than she needed me perfect. Jennifer's eyes glistened. Simple things, but I needed to hear them from someone who cared enough to notice I was drowning. It's strange how isolation happens, Ethan said quietly. How you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone in your struggle. But we are not alone anymore. Jennifer gestured to their daughters. We've got them and we've got friends who understand. That's worth protecting. They finished their ice cream and walked to the nearby park, letting the girls burn off sugar-fueled energy on the playground. Ethan and Jennifer sat on a bench, conversation flowing easily between them. She told him about her nursing work, the joy and heartbreak of labor and delivery. He shared about his new role, the excitement and nervousness of increased responsibility. You'll be great at it, Jennifer said with confidence. You're thoughtful. You see people clearly. Those are rare qualities in leadership. I'm learning from Victoria. She's brilliant, but also complicated. Tough love personified. Sounds like exactly what you needed. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lily ran over and climbed into Ethan's lap, tired and content. He wrapped his arms around her, breathing in her little girl's scent of sunshine and playground dirt. This was the best day, Lily announced. Can we do it every week? We can certainly try, Ethan said, meeting Jennifer's smile. Please. Emma's my best friend, and Jennifer makes you laugh, and I like when you're happy. The simple observation hit him squarely in the chest. Children saw everything, noticed the shifts adults tried to hide. Lily had watched him transform from ghost to present father, and she was celebrating it with the straightforward honesty only kids possessed. I like when I'm happy, too, Ethan said softly. And I'm working on being happy more often. Good, because Mommy would want you to be happy. She told me before she died that I had to make sure you smiled sometimes. Ethan's vision blurred. He pulled Lily closer, overcome by the memory of Sarah in those final days, already knowing she wouldn't survive the surgery, trying to prepare them both for a future without her. Jennifer's hand found his shoulder, a gentle gesture of understanding. Emma came over and hugged Lily. Some silent communication passing between the girls that ended with both of them giggling and racing back to the swings. "She's wise beyond her years," Jennifer observed. "She's her mother's daughter." Ethan wiped his eyes unself-consciously. Sarah always knew the right thing to say. How to cut through my anxiety and bring me back to what mattered. Lily has that same gift. Then you're raising her right. Keeping her mother alive in her heart, while letting her be her own person. They stayed until the park lights came on, signaling closing time. The drive home felt peaceful. Lily singing along to the radio. Ethan's thoughts quiet for once. No work anxiety, no guilt about taking time for himself. Just contentment in the moment. When he tucked Lily into bed that night, she looked up at him with Sarah's eyes. "Daddy, do you think you'll ever get married again?" The question caught him completely off guard. What makes you ask that?" "Emma says her mom might get married again someday, when she finds the right person. I was wondering if you would too." Ethan sat on the edge of her bed choosing his words carefully. "I don't know, sweetheart. I loved your mommy very much. I still love her. But maybe someday if the right person came along, I could love someone new, too. Would that bother you?" Lily considered this seriously. "Would they be nice to me? Anyone I ever considered would have to be kind and wonderful and treat you like the treasure you are. Then I think it would be okay as long as they know mommy was here first and she's still important. Always. Mommy will always be important to both of us." Satisfied, Lily snuggled into her blankets. "I think Jennifer is nice and she makes good cookies." Ethan laughed despite his surprise. "She does make good cookies, but Jennifer and I are just friends, baby." "Okay, but if you wanted to be more than friends, that would be okay, too." The casual wisdom of 7-year-olds was both endearing and terrifying. Ethan kissed her forehead and stood. "Good night, sweetheart. Sweet dreams." "Night, Daddy. Love you." "Love you, too." In the kitchen, Ethan poured himself a glass of water and thought about Jennifer. She was kind, warm, easy to talk to. Their shared experience of single parenthood created understanding without need for explanation. Lily adored her and Emma, and yes, there was something comfortable about their growing friendship, something that could potentially become more if they both wanted it. But he wasn't ready. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. The grief was softer now, but still present. He was still learning to be whole on his own before he could consider sharing that wholeness with someone else. His phone chimed. Victoria. Daniel attended his first GA meeting tonight. His advisor says he was engaged and honest about his situation. Small step, but worth noting. That's good news. How are you doing with it? Cautiously hopeful. Which feels dangerous, but necessary. Hope isn't dangerous. It's brave. Your therapy is showing. Dr. Chen would be proud. Ethan smiled and set his phone down. He pulled out his laptop, not to work, but to update the journal Dr. Chen had suggested he keep writing down thoughts, processing emotions, tracking growth. It had seemed indulgent at first, but he'd come to value the practice. 6 months ago, I thought my life was ending, he typed. Tonight, I realized it was just beginning. The difference between those two states is community, support, and the courage to accept help. Victoria gave me structure. Jennifer gave me friendship. Lily gave me purpose. Dr. Chen gave me tools. Together, they gave me back myself. He paused, then added, Sarah would be proud of who I'm becoming. That matters more than I knew it could. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office early for his first official meeting as Director of Strategic Innovation. His new team was small, just 3 analysts and a project coordinator, but they were sharp and enthusiastic. He spent 2 hours outlining his vision for the department, emphasizing deep thinking over quick reactions, quality over speed, sustainable excellence over burnout. I don't want heroes on this team, he said firmly. I want healthy, balanced professionals who produce brilliant work because they have the space and support to think deeply. That means reasonable hours, actual vacations, and permission to say no when you're at capacity. Understood. The team exchanged glances, clearly uncertain whether to believe him. One analyst, a young woman named Maya, spoke up hesitantly. In my last department, that kind of talk was just lip service. They said work-life balance mattered, then punished anyone who actually maintained boundaries. I know, I've been there. Ethan met each person's eyes in turn. I'm not going to lie and say there won't be occasional intense periods or tight deadlines, but there'll be exceptions, not the norm. And I'll model the behavior I expect. You'll see me leave at 5 to pick up my daughter. You'll see me take vacation. You'll see me maintain boundaries, because I learned the hard way that burning out doesn't make you valuable. It makes you ineffective. The meeting ended with cautious optimism. As the team dispersed, Victoria appeared in his doorway. Good start. They're going to test you, you know, see if you really mean it. I know. I'm ready for that. Good. She handed him a folder. Your first major project. Analysis of the Asian markets for potential expansion. Timeline is 9 months. Budget is generous. Expectations are high. Ethan flipped through the brief, excitement building. This was exactly the kind of work he loved. Complex and consequential. This is going to be incredible. I know. That's why I'm giving it to you. Victoria's expression was almost proud. Don't prove me wrong, Ethan. I won't. As she left, Ethan looked around his new office, still barely furnished, and felt the weight of possibility. 6 months ago, he'd been a man barely holding himself together with caffeine and denial. Now, he was a director with a team, a meaningful project, and a life that felt worth living. His daughter would be proud. His wife would be proud. And maybe finally, he was starting to be proud of himself, too. The Asian markets project consumed Ethan's focus for the next 3 months, but in a way that felt energizing rather than draining. He built research protocols with his team, delegated effectively, and discovered that collaboration produced better results than solo heroics ever had. Maya proved particularly brilliant at data analysis, while another analyst named James had an intuitive grasp of cultural nuances that shaped consumer behavior across different regions. On a cold February afternoon, Ethan was reviewing preliminary findings when his phone rang. The school's number appeared on the screen, sending immediate alarm through his system. Mr. Brooks, this is Principal Martinez. Lily's fine, but there's been an incident. Can you come in? 20 minutes later, Ethan sat in the principal's office across from a tight-lipped teacher and a tearful Lily. The story emerged in fragments. A boy had been bullying Emma for weeks, calling her names because she didn't have a father. Today, Lily had punched him in the face. I know it was wrong, Lily said through her tears. But he was being so mean to Emma, and she was crying, and I just got so angry. The teacher, Mrs. Palmer, spoke with barely controlled frustration. Violence is never acceptable, Mr. Brooks. Lily will need to serve detention for the rest of the week. I understand. Ethan looked at his daughter, seeing Sarah's fierce protectiveness shining through the tears. Lily, what you did was wrong. We don't hit people no matter how angry we are. I know, her voice was small. But, Ethan continued, looking at Mrs. Palmer. What's being done about the bullying? Because my daughter defending her friend from sustained harassment seems like a symptom of a larger problem. Mrs. Palmer stiffened. We have anti-bullying policies in place, which clearly aren't working if this has been happening for weeks without intervention. Ethan kept his voice level but firm. I'll support appropriate consequences for Lily's actions, but I expect equal attention to addressing the behavior that precipitated this incident. Principal Martinez nodded slowly. Mr. Brooks is right. We need to look at the full picture here. Mrs. Palmer, please document everything the other student has said and done. We'll be calling his parents in as well. After the meeting, Ethan drove Lily home in silence. She sat in the back seat, small and miserable. Once they were in the apartment, he guided her to the couch and sat beside her. Tell me what happened. All of it. The story poured out. Weeks of taunts directed at Emma. Teachers who heard but didn't act because it was just words. Emma becoming quieter, sadder, withdrawing from activities she loved. Lily's growing fury at the injustice. The breaking point today, when the boy said Emma's father left because she was stupid. I knew it was wrong to hit him, Lily said, fresh tears streaming. But my body just moved before I could think. I was so angry, Daddy. I understand that anger, and I'm proud of you for wanting to protect your friend. Ethan pulled her close. But we need to find better ways to handle situations like this. Violence creates more problems than it solves. What should I have done? Told the teacher immediately. Come to me or Jennifer so we could intervene. Used your words to tell him his behavior was cruel and unacceptable. Ethan tilted her chin up gently. The world isn't always fair, baby. People can be cruel, but we don't fight cruelty with more cruelty. We fight it with courage and honesty, and refusing to be silent like you did in the meeting when you made them talk about the bullying. Exactly like that. Standing up for what's right doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it means speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable. Lily nodded, processing. I'm sorry I disappointed you. You could never disappoint me. You made a mistake. We all do. What matters is learning from it. He kissed her forehead. You'll serve your detention. You'll apologize to the boy for hitting him, even though he was wrong, too. And then you'll move forward being the kind and fierce person your mother raised you to be. That evening, Ethan called Jennifer to explain what happened. She arrived 30 minutes later with Emma, who immediately hugged Lily. I'm sorry you got in trouble because of me, Emma said. It's not your fault. That boy was being horrible. Lily squeezed her friend tight. But I shouldn't have hit him. My dad says there are better ways. The girls disappeared into Lily's room, while the adults settled in the kitchen. Jennifer looked exhausted and grateful. Emma told me about the bullying last week, but she made me promise not to tell the school. She was afraid it would make things worse. Jennifer's hands wrapped around the coffee mug Ethan had given her. I should have intervened anyway. I just didn't want to make her feel like I was breaking her trust. It's impossible to get these things right all the time. We just do our best. Ethan leaned against the counter. The school is addressing it now. That's what matters. Lily is lucky to have you. The way you handled that meeting, standing up for both kids, while still holding Lily accountable for her actions. That's good parenting. I'm figuring it out as I go. Some days I feel competent. Others I'm certain I'm damaging her for life. Jennifer laughed softly. That's parenting in a nutshell. Constant oscillation between confidence and terror. She paused, then spoke more carefully. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Are you doing okay? Really okay? Because you seem so much better than when we first met, but I know that doesn't mean the hard days stop happening. The question was gentle but direct. Ethan considered deflecting, maintaining the facade of having everything together, but something about Jennifer invited honesty. Most days are good now. I sleep. I eat real food. I spend time with Lily without constantly thinking about work, but sometimes grief hits me out of nowhere, and I'm right back in that raw place where Sarah just died and everything feels impossible. He met her eyes. Last week I was making pancakes and found the recipe in Sarah's handwriting tucked in the cookbook. I completely fell apart for 20 minutes. What did you do? Let myself cry. Called my therapist. Talked to Lily about missing her mom. Didn't try to push through it or bury it under work. He smiled slightly. 6 months ago, I would have shoved those feelings down and worked until I was too exhausted to feel anything. That's real growth, Ethan. Being able to feel hard things, and not let them destroy you. Jennifer's expression was understanding. I still have those moments, too. Last month, Emma asked if I remembered what her dad's voice sounded like, and I realized I was forgetting. That sent me into a tailspin for days. How did you handle it? Found old voicemails I'd saved. Made a recording for Emma, so she could hear him whenever she wanted. Let myself be sad without judging the sadness. She smiled. We're both doing the work. That's what matters. They talked for another hour while the girls played, conversation flowing between parenting challenges and work stories and the small victories of daily life. When Jennifer and Emma finally left, Lily helped clean up the coffee mugs. I like Jennifer, Lily announced. She's nice and she doesn't treat me like a baby. She is nice and she understands what we've been through because she's been through something similar. Do you think you'll marry her? Ethan nearly dropped the mug he was washing. What? No, we are friends, Lily. But you could be more than friends. You smile different when she's here. The observation was unnervingly perceptive. Even if I did have feelings for Jennifer, which I'm not saying I do, it would be complicated. We'd both have to want the same thing, and I'd have to be ready for that kind of relationship. I'm not sure I am. Why not? Because loving someone means risking loss again, and losing your mother hurts so much that sometimes I'm afraid to let anyone else get that close. Lily looked at him with ancient wisdom in her young eyes. But Mommy wouldn't want you to be alone forever, just because being with her was scary to lose. The simple truth hit him squarely in the chest. No, she wouldn't. Your mother was braver than me. She loved fully, even knowing life is fragile. Then maybe you should be brave, too. Ethan pulled his daughter into a hug, overwhelmed by her insight and compassion. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm 7¾ "That's very wise." He laughed. "The sound genuine and warm." "Yes, it certainly is." The following week, the company held its annual charity gala, a black tie event that raised money for educational programs in underserved communities. Ethan had attended perfunctorily in previous years, putting in an appearance before escaping early to return to work. This year, Victoria made it clear his presence as a director was expected. "Bring a date if you'd like," she'd said casually. "Or come solo, but be prepared to network. Donors like meeting the people behind our programs." Ethan stood in front of his closet the night before the event, staring at the suit he hadn't worn since Sarah's funeral. The thought of attending alone felt daunting. On impulse, he texted Jennifer. "Random question. Would you want to go to a work charity gala with me Saturday night? Totally understand if that's not your thing. No pressure either way." Her response came quickly. "Is this you asking me on a date, or asking for moral support at a work function?" He stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Honesty won out. "I'm honestly not sure." "Both neither. I just know I'd like you there. Then I'd love to come." "What's the dress code?" "Black tie." "Fancy." "Probably boring speeches and mediocre chicken." "Sounds perfect. Pick me up at 6. The gala was held at an elegant hotel ballroom. Chandeliers glittering above round tables draped in white linens. Ethan arrived with Jennifer on his arm, struck by how beautiful she looked in a midnight blue dress that brought out her eyes. She'd done something different with her hair, and the effect was stunning. "You clean up nice, Mr. Brooks," she teased as they entered. "You're radiant." "I should have mentioned that already." "You just did." "I'll take it." They navigated the crowd, Ethan introducing Jennifer to colleagues while she charmed everyone with her warmth and quick wit. He found himself relaxing, enjoying the evening in a way he never had at these events. Jennifer made everything lighter, easier. Victoria appeared at their table just before dinner, resplendent in a black gown that managed to be both elegant and subtly powerful. Her eyes took in Jennifer with sharp assessment. "You must be the famous Jennifer I've heard about." "I'm Victoria Hale." Jennifer stood, shaking her hand firmly. "Ethan's told me so much about you. Thank you for what you did for him." "I simply removed obstacles he'd built for himself. The rest was his work." Victoria's gaze moved between them with something that might have been approval. "I'm glad he has support outside the office. Balance is essential for sustainable success." After Victoria moved on to greet other tables, Jennifer leaned close to Ethan. "She's terrifying and magnificent at the same time." "That's an accurate assessment." Dinner passed pleasantly. The chicken was indeed mediocre, but the conversation was engaging. Ethan found himself laughing genuinely at Jennifer's stories about hospital chaos and the absurdities of medical bureaucracy. When the dancing started, he surprised himself by asking her to dance. "I should warn you, I'm terrible at this," he said as they moved onto the floor. "Good thing I'm a nurse. I'm trained to catch people when they fall." They swayed to the music, and Ethan was acutely aware of her hand in his, the warmth of her waist beneath his palm, the way she fit against him with easy comfort. It felt both foreign and right, thrilling and terrifying. "Can I tell you something?" Jennifer's voice was soft near his ear. "Of course." I think I might be developing feelings for you. Real feelings. And I wanted to be honest about that before we got any further into whatever this is becoming. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. I think I might be developing feelings for you, too. And that scares me. Because of Sarah. Because losing her nearly destroyed me. Because I'm terrified of loving someone and losing them again. Because I have a daughter whose heart would break if I brought someone into our lives and it didn't work out. Jennifer pulled back slightly to meet his eyes. I understand that fear. I have it, too. Emma's already attached to Lily, and if things between us went badly, it would hurt both girls. She paused. But I also think we could be really good together. We understand each other's lives. We are both figuring out how to move forward while honoring the people we lost. And Ethan, when I'm with you, I feel like myself again, not just Emma's mom or a nurse, just me. I feel the same way. The admission felt monumental, but I don't know how to do this. How to date as a single parent. How to introduce someone new into Lily's life carefully. How to protect everyone's hearts while still being open to possibility. We figure it out together slowly, honestly. With the girls' well-being as our first priority, Jennifer's smile was gentle. We don't have to have all the answers tonight. We just have to be willing to try. Ethan pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. I'd like to try. Carefully, but yes, I'd like to try. They stayed on the dance floor through 3 songs, holding each other and swaying, neither speaking. Around them, the gala continued, but Ethan was aware only of Jennifer's warmth, her steady presence, the feeling of being seen and understood. When they finally left the dance floor, Victoria caught his eye from across the room. She raised her glass fractionally, a gesture that might have been approval or simply acknowledgement. Ethan raised his own glass in return, a silent thank you for pushing him toward life instead of letting him hide in work. The drive home was quiet, comfortable silence punctuated by occasional observations about the evening. When Ethan pulled up to Jennifer's house, she turned to him with a question in her eyes. Would you like to come in for coffee? Emma's at my brother's house tonight. We could actually talk without little ears listening. Ethan recognized the offer for what it was, not just coffee, a threshold, a choice to move forward or maintain safe distance. His instinct was to decline, to protect himself from the vulnerability of deepening connection. But he thought about Lily's words, about being brave, about Sarah, who had loved fearlessly despite life's fragility. I'd like that. Jennifer's living room was warm and lived in, filled with photos of Emma and personal touches that spoke of a life slowly rebuilt after loss. They settled on the couch with coffee neither of them really wanted. The air charged with possibility and nervousness. I should probably tell you about David, Jennifer said, Emma's father, so you understand what you're potentially getting into. Only if you want to share. We were high school sweethearts. Married at 22, had Emma at 24. He was brilliant and kind and completely unprepared for fatherhood. Jennifer's smile was sad but fond. We struggled those first few years. The sleepless nights, the financial pressure, the loss of our pre-baby identities. We fought more than we should have, but we were working through it, getting to a better place. She paused, gathering herself. The heart defect was congenital. Nobody knew. He just collapsed one morning while getting ready for work. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was gone. Emma was 3, too young to really understand, but old enough to know something terrible had happened. I'm sorry. That's devastating. It was. For a long time, I was angry at him for leaving, even though it wasn't his fault. At myself for the fights we'd had, the time we'd wasted being frustrated with each other instead of appreciating what we had, at the universe for being so randomly cruel. Jennifer met his eyes. But I've worked through most of that anger. What I'm left with is gratitude for the time we had and determination to live fully with whatever time I have left. That's beautiful and brave. It's survival. Same as what you did. She set down her coffee cup. I'm telling you this because if we're going to explore something between us, you should know that I come with baggage. Emma has abandonment issues. I have trust issues. We are both healing but not healed. It's messy. I have baggage, too. Grief I'm still processing. Lily, who asks pointed questions about my love life. A tendency to throw myself into work when emotions get overwhelming. Ethan reached for her hand. We are both messy. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it is. They talked until past midnight, sharing stories about their late spouses, their children, their fears and hopes. Jennifer told him about the first year after David's death, working herself to exhaustion while Emma grew increasingly anxious. Ethan shared about the night Victoria fired him, the terror and eventual relief of having his self-destruction interrupted. She saved your life, Jennifer observed. She did in the most uncomfortable way possible. Ethan smiled. I was furious at the time, humiliated, convinced she was destroying everything. It took weeks to understand she was actually saving me from myself. That's real friendship, caring enough to do the hard thing instead of the comfortable thing. Have you had someone like that? Someone who intervened when you needed it? Jennifer nodded. My best friend Rachel, she's a therapist. After David died, I pushed everyone away, but Rachel just kept showing up, bringing food I didn't eat, sitting with me while I cried, watching Emma when I couldn't function. She refused to let me isolate completely. Her voice thickened with emotion. I don't think I would have survived that first year without her. Where is she now? She moved to Oregon 2 years ago for a job opportunity. We talk every week still. She's been cheering me on as I've started to consider dating again. What does she think about me? Jennifer laughed. I haven't told her about you specifically yet, but she'd like you. She values emotional intelligence and genuine kindness. You have both. When Ethan finally left at 1 o'clock in the morning, it was with a gentle kiss on Jennifer's doorstep. Sweet and tentative and full of promise. Driving home, he felt a complex mix of exhilaration and fear. He was stepping into unknown territory, risking his heart again, after protecting it so carefully. His phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Jennifer. Thank you for tonight, for being honest, for being willing to try. Thank you for being patient with me while I figure out how to do this. We'll figure it out together. That's the whole point. At home, Ethan paid the babysitter and checked on Lily. She was fast asleep, sprawled across her bed with her stuffed elephant tucked under one arm. He adjusted her blankets, kissed her forehead, and allowed himself to imagine a future where their family expanded to include Jennifer and Emma. The thought was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. The next morning, Lily appeared in the kitchen while Ethan was making breakfast, her hair a wild tangle and sleep still in her eyes. How was the party? It was nice. Good food, interesting conversations. Did you have fun with Jennifer? Ethan flipped a pancake, buying time to formulate his response. I did. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. Jennifer and I are thinking about spending more time together. Just the two of us sometimes. Not always with you and Emma. Lily's face split into a huge grin. Like dating? Yes. Like dating. How would you feel about that? I think it's great. I told you Jennifer was nice. Lily bounced excitedly. Can we still all hang out together, too? Of course. Nothing about our time together or your friendship with Emma will change. This just means Jennifer and I want to get to know each other better in a different way. Because you like her. Because I like her, and she likes me, and we want to see if we could make each other happy. Lily nodded sagely. That's what dating is for. To see if people fit together good. Where did you learn that? Emma's uncle got married last year. Emma explained the whole thing to me. You date, then if you still like each other, you get engaged, then you have a wedding, then you're married forever or until someone dies. The matter-of-fact delivery of relationship progression from a 7-year-old was both amusing and sobering. That's approximately how it works, yes, but Jennifer and I are just at the very beginning, the dating part. Everything else is way down the road, if it happens at all. Okay. Can I have extra chocolate chips in my pancakes? The easy acceptance warmed Ethan's chest. Yes, you can have extra chocolate chips. As they ate breakfast together, sunlight streaming through the kitchen windows, Ethan felt something he hadn't experienced in nearly 2 years. Hope. Real tangible hope for a future that held more than just survival. A future with love, connection, possibility. His phone buzzed. A message from Victoria. Coffee. Monday morning. Want to discuss the Asian market's preliminary findings. Of course. 900 a.m. work. Perfect. And Ethan, you looked happy last night. Really happy. Hold on to that. He smiled and pocketed his phone. Lily was chattering about a project at school, her chocolate chip-smeared face animated with enthusiasm. Outside, the late winter sun promised the eventual arrival of spring. Inside, Ethan felt the slow thaw of a heart learning to open again. The fear was still there. It probably always would be, but fear and hope could coexist. Grief and joy could share the same space. He could honor Sarah's memory while building something new. He could be a devoted father while also being a man capable of romantic love. Victoria had fired him from destroying himself. Now he was being hired back into the fullness of life, one careful choice at a time. Monday morning arrived with the fresh promise of March. The last remnants of winter finally loosening their grip on the city. Ethan met Victoria in her office at 9 sharp. The Asian markets analysis tucked under his arm. She was already reviewing documents when he entered, her reading glasses perched on her nose in a rare display of vulnerability that made her seem almost human. Coffee's fresh, she said without looking up, gesturing to the side table where Karif waited. Pour me a cup, too, while you're at it. Ethan obliged, settling into the chair across from her desk with both cups. Victoria removed her glasses and fixed him, with that penetrating gaze that still made him slightly nervous despite months of working closely together. Your preliminary findings are exceptional. Thorough market segmentation, nuanced cultural analysis, risk assessment that accounts for variables most analysts miss entirely. She tapped the report. This is exactly the caliber of work I knew you were capable of producing when you had the mental space to actually think. Thank you. The team really came together on this. Maya's statistical modeling and James' cultural insights were invaluable. I'm sure they were. But the strategic framework is pure you. I can see your thinking patterns all over this. Victoria leaned back in her chair. The board presentation is in 2 weeks. I want you to present the findings yourself. Ethan felt his stomach drop. To the full board, that's usually your domain. It was, but you're a director now. Time to step into the visibility that comes with that role. Besides, you know this material better than anyone. You should be the one defending it. Defending it implies they'll challenge the recommendations. Victoria's smile was sharp. Oh, they absolutely will. Richard Chen, in particular, loves to play devil's advocate. He'll push back hard on the Southeast Asian expansion timeline, but you can handle him. You have data and logic on your side. The next 2 weeks were a blow of preparation. Ethan refined his presentation, anticipated objections, and rehearsed responses until he could deliver them in his sleep. Jennifer provided moral support, listening to practice runs, and asking intelligent questions that helped him sharpen his arguments. Lily made him a good luck card covered in glitter that he kept on his desk. The night before the board presentation, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, anxiety churning in his gut. His phone buzzed at midnight. Victoria, stop overthinking. You know this material cold. Trust yourself. How did you know I was awake? Because I remember my first board presentation. I was terrified, convinced I'd humiliate myself. Instead, I discovered I was capable of more than I believed. What if I freeze up there? Then you take a breath, look at your notes, and continue. They are humans, Ethan. Powerful humans with financial influence, but still just humans. They make mistakes. They have insecurities. They are not infallible gods. Easy for you to say. You command every room you enter. I learned to command rooms. It wasn't innate. And you're learning, too. Now, stop catastrophizing and get some sleep. Ethan smiled despite his nerves. Thank you, Victoria, for everything. Not just tonight, but the past 9 months. You've earned every opportunity you've been given. Remember that tomorrow. The boardroom was intimidating. All dark wood and leather chairs and walls lined with portraits of previous company leaders. 12 board members sat around the massive table, their combined net worth probably exceeding a small nation's GDP. Victoria sat at the head perfectly composed, her expression giving nothing away. Ladies and gentlemen, our Director of Strategic Innovation will present his analysis of potential Asian market expansion. She nodded to Ethan. The floor is yours. Ethan stood, connected his laptop to the projection system, and took a breath. Then he began. The presentation flowed smoothly for the first 20 minutes. He walked through market data, demographic trends, competitive landscapes, and regulatory environments. His voice remained steady, his arguments clear. He could see some board members nodding, making notes, leaning forward with interest. Then Richard Chen raised his hand. Your timeline for Southeast Asian entry seems aggressive. You're proposing initial market testing within 6 months, but you've identified significant regulatory hurdles that typically take 9 to 12 months to navigate. How do you reconcile that discrepancy? Ethan had anticipated this exact question. Excellent point, Mr. Chen. The timeline assumes we are pursuing partnership strategies with established regional players who've already navigated those regulatory frameworks. Rather than building from scratch, we'd be leveraging existing infrastructure and compliance systems. That accelerates our timeline significantly while reducing risk exposure. And if those partnership negotiations fall through, then we shift to the contingency timeline outlined in Appendix C, which extends the launch window to 14 months, but maintains profitability projections. The partnership approach is optimal, but not the only viable path. Richard smiled slightly, a predator acknowledging worthy prey. Good answer. The questions continued, some challenging, others clarifying, all demanding deep knowledge of the material. Ethan fielded each one, occasionally referencing his notes, but mostly speaking from genuine understanding of the analysis his team had produced. He watched Victoria, from the corner of his eye, saw the faint approval in her expression. After 45 minutes, the question ceased. Victoria stood. Unless there are additional concerns, I'd like to call for a preliminary vote on proceeding with the proposed strategy. All in favor? 11 hands rose. Only Richard abstained, though his expression suggested thoughtful consideration rather than opposition. Motion carries, Mr. Brooks. Excellent work. Please coordinate with Maria to begin implementation planning. Victoria's tone was all business, but her eyes held warmth. You are dismissed. Outside the boardroom, Ethan's hands shook with adrenaline release. He'd done it. He'd presented to the board, defended his work against serious challenge, and earned their approval. The impossible had become reality. His phone buzzed. Jennifer. How did it go? I think I just became a real director. Never doubted it for a second. Celebration dinner tonight. My place. I'm cooking. Perfect. I'll bring wine. That evening, Ethan arrived at Jennifer's house with flowers and an expensive bottle of red he'd stopped to purchase specifically for the occasion. She answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her feet bare, her smile genuine and warm. Congratulations, Mr. Director. She accepted the flowers with a kiss that lingered just long enough to make his heart race. The girls are having a movie marathon in Emma's room. We have the kitchen to ourselves. Dinner was simple but perfect. Roasted chicken, vegetables, conversation that flowed as easily as the wine. They'd been officially dating for 6 weeks now. A careful progression of dinners, and coffee dates and family outings with the girls. It felt natural, unforced, like pieces sliding into place with gentle inevitability. I need to tell you something, Jennifer said as they cleared dishes. And I'm nervous about how you'll react. Ethan felt tension creep into his shoulders. Okay. The hospital offered me a promotion, shift supervisor for labor and delivery, better pay, better hours, more stability. But it means evening shifts 3 days a week instead of my current schedule. That sounds like a great opportunity. Why would I react badly? Because it means I'd need more help with Emma. My brother can cover some nights, but not all of them. And I don't want you to feel pressured to step into a parenting role before you're ready. Understanding dawned. Ethan set down the dish he was holding and turned to face her fully. Jennifer, I care about Emma. Not just because she's your daughter or because she's Lily's best friend, but because she's a smart, funny, kind kid who deserves support. If you need help with her occasionally, I'm happy to provide it. That doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like being part of each other's lives. Relief washed across Jennifer's face. You mean that? I do. Lily would be thrilled to have more time with Emma. And honestly, I like the idea of our families blending naturally instead of keeping everything compartmentalized. Jennifer kissed him properly then, deep and grateful and full of emotion. When they broke apart, her eyes were wet. I'm falling in love with you, Ethan Brooks. I've been trying not to rush it or scare you away, but I need you to know. The words hung between them, momentous and terrifying and wonderful. Ethan pulled her close, his heart hammering. I'm falling in love with you, too. It scares me, but it also feels right in a way I didn't think was possible again. They stood in her kitchen holding each other while laughter from the girls' movie marathon drifted down the hallway. This was what life could look like, Ethan realized. Blended families, shared responsibilities, love built on mutual understanding and respect. It wouldn't be perfect. There would be challenges, moments of doubt, negotiations about schedules and boundaries, but it would be real and worth fighting for. Spring arrived in earnest, bringing warmer weather and a sense of renewal. Ethan's Asian markets project moved into implementation phase. His team working efficiently within reasonable hours to execute the strategy the board had approved. He left work at 5 most days, spent evenings with Lily, and carved out time for Jennifer several nights a week. Victoria's brother, Daniel, had maintained his sobriety and financial recovery for 4 months now, attending meetings regularly and rebuilding his life with slow, steady progress. He'd started a job in accounting, modest but stable, and was living in a small apartment he could actually afford. Victoria remained cautiously optimistic, her relationship with Daniel tentative but healing. He called me yesterday, Victoria told Ethan during one of their regular check-in meetings. Not to ask for anything, just to talk, to tell me about his week. It was the first time in years he's contacted me without needing something. That's real progress. It is. And terrifying, because I want to believe he's truly changed. But history suggests, she trailed off, vulnerability flickering across her usually controlled features. Hope and caution can coexist, Ethan said gently. You can support his recovery, while protecting yourself from potential disappointment. That's not cynicism. It's wisdom. Victoria smiled. When did you become so insightful about human behavior? I have an excellent therapist and a boss who modeled healthy boundary setting. I'm not your boss anymore. We're colleagues now. The shift in dynamic had been subtle but significant. Victoria still commanded authority, but she also invited collaboration, valued Ethan's perspective, and treated him as an equal partner in strategic planning. It was a professional relationship built on mutual respect rather than hierarchical power. In late April, Jennifer's promotion became official. The celebration dinner included both families. The 4 of them squeezed around Jennifer's dining table with pizza and cake and chaotic conversation. Emma and Lily presented their mothers with handmade cards, declaring them the best moms ever, which prompted tears from both women. After dinner, while the girls played outside in the fading daylight, Ethan and Jennifer sat on her porch steps watching them. This is good, Jennifer said softly. Them. This whole messy, complicated, beautiful situation we are building. It is? Ethan took her hand. I know we've been taking things slowly, but I want you to know I'm serious about this, about us, about building a future together. I'm serious too. Terrified, but serious. What terrifies you? Jennifer was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. That we are both still grieving our first loves. That we might be substitutes for each other instead of genuine connections. That our kids might get hurt if this doesn't work out. That I'm not enough because I'm not Sarah. Ethan turned to face her, cupping her face gently. You're not Sarah. You're Jennifer. Completely different people with different strengths and qualities and ways of loving. I love Sarah with everything I had. Her death nearly destroyed me. But loving her doesn't mean I can't also love you. My heart is big enough for both. How do you know that? Because Sarah would want me to be happy. She told me so right before she died. She made me promise I wouldn't spend the rest of my life alone out of some misguided loyalty to her memory. Ethan's voice thickened. It took me almost 2 years to understand what she meant. That honoring her doesn't require staying frozen in grief. It requires living fully the way she would have wanted me to. Jennifer kissed him softly. David told me something similar. Said he wanted me to find love again, to give Emma a stable family. I thought he was being absurd at the time because he wasn't supposed to die, but now I understand he was giving me permission to move forward when the time came. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their daughters chase fireflies in the gathering dusk. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but full of possibility. In June, the company celebrated its 50th anniversary with a massive party attended by employees, clients, and community partners. Ethan brought Jennifer as his date. No longer nervous about being seen together publicly, they'd become an established couple, their relationship solid enough to withstand scrutiny. Victoria found them during the cocktail hour, a rare smile on her face. Jennifer, lovely to see you again. Ethan's been insufferably happy lately. I assume you're responsible. Jennifer laughed. I like to think we make each other happy. Good. He deserves it. Victoria's expression turned more serious. Ethan, could I borrow you for a moment? There's someone I'd like you to meet. Ethan followed her to a quiet corner, where a distinguished older man stood examining photographs of the company's history displayed along the wall. Ethan Brooks. This is Jonathan Martinez. He's on the board of directors for the Hartwell Foundation, one of the largest non-profit organizations focused on work-life integration and corporate mental health. Jonathan extended his hand with a warm smile. Victoria's told me about your journey, the transformation from burnout to balanced leadership. It's a remarkable story. Ethan shook his hand, uncertain where this was leading. Thank you, though Victoria deserves most of the credit for that transformation. I disagree, Victoria interjected. You did the hard work. I just removed obstacles. Jonathan nodded thoughtfully. The Hartwell Foundation is developing a corporate wellness initiative focused on preventing executive burnout and supporting employees through major life transitions. We are looking for someone to lead program development, someone with both strategic expertise and personal understanding of the challenges. Victoria suggested you might be interested. The offer caught Ethan completely off guard. I'm honored, but I have a position here, a team that depends on me. This would be a consulting role, Jonathan clarified. 10 hours a week, flexible schedule, focused on creating frameworks and best practices that companies can implement. You'd maintain your current position while helping us develop programs that could prevent thousands of people from experiencing what you went through. Ethan looked at Victoria, searching for her reaction. She nodded encouragingly. It's a good opportunity, Ethan. Meaningful work that aligns with your values and expertise, and it wouldn't interfere with your responsibilities here. I've already discussed it with the executive team. We're supportive. Can I think about it? Of course. Jonathan handed him a business card. Take a week. Talk it over with your family. Then let me know if you're interested in discussing details. That night, Ethan described the offer to Jennifer while they walked through the park near her house. The girls having fallen asleep in the car on the drive home from the party. It sounds perfect for you, Jennifer said. Using your experience to help others avoid the same mistakes. Creating systemic change instead of just surviving personally. But it's more responsibility, more time commitment. What if I fall back into old patterns? You won't. You know the warning signs now. You have support systems. And Ethan, this isn't about proving your worth through overwork. This is about meaningful contribution that fits within your existing boundaries. She was right. And he knew it. The old Ethan would have taken on additional responsibility, as a way to validate his existence through constant productivity. The new Ethan could evaluate opportunities based on genuine interest and sustainable integration into his life. I think I want to do it, he said slowly. Not because I need to prove anything, but because it matters. Because I can help prevent other people from reaching the breaking point I reached. Then do it. We'll figure out the logistics together. A week later, Ethan accepted the consulting position. The work was engaging and purposeful, focused on developing screening tools to identify employee burnout, creating intervention protocols, and building corporate cultures that valued sustainable performance over heroic martyrdom. He drew heavily on his own experience, Victoria's insights, and the research-backed approaches Dr. Chen had introduced him to in therapy. By August, he'd helped design a pilot program that 3 companies were implementing. The early results were promising. Reduced turnover, improved employee satisfaction, better long-term performance metrics. Victoria was using elements of the framework within their own organization, creating policies that explicitly valued work-life integration. You're changing lives, she told him during one of their weekly coffee meetings. Not just through the Hartwell work, but through how you're modeling balanced leadership here. The junior analysts talk about you constantly. How you leave at 5 without apology. How you take your full vacation time. How you're successful and present. You're proof that the old toxic models don't work. I learned from the best, Ethan said, raising his coffee cup in a toast. We learned from each other. Victoria's expression softened. That night I showed up at your door. I was terrified I was overstepping. That you'd reject the help or resent the intervention. But I couldn't stand by and watch you destroy yourself when I knew exactly where that path led. You saved my life, Victoria. I understand that now. You gave me back myself. No, I just removed the obstacles you'd built. You did the rest. You chose therapy. You chose presence with Lily. You chose to rebuild yourself into someone sustainable. Those were your choices, your courage. Ethan thought about that conversation later, as he sat in family therapy with Jennifer, Lily, and Emma. They'd started the sessions 2 months earlier, working with a counselor who specialized in blended families to navigate the complexities of merging their lives. The girls adored each other, but there were still jealousies, boundary questions, and difficult conversations about grief and change. How do we honor the parents who died while making room for new family configurations? The therapist, Dr. Patel, asked during one session. Lily answered first, her 7-year-old wisdom striking as always. We remember them and love them, but we also love the people who are here now. Love doesn't run out just because you use it on more people. Emma nodded vigorously. My dad will always be my dad. But that doesn't mean Ethan can't be important, too. Different, but still important. Dr. Patel smiled. That's beautifully said. Adults could learn a lot from that perspective. By September, nearly a year after Victoria had knocked on his door at midnight, Ethan's life had transformed so completely that the man he'd been felt like a stranger. He worked meaningful hours on projects that mattered. He was present and engaged with Lily, attending school events and helping with homework, and knowing her friends' names. He had a relationship with Jennifer that deepened daily, built on honesty and mutual support and genuine affection. He was making a difference through his consulting work, creating frameworks that would help thousands of employees avoid the burnout that had nearly destroyed him. On a Saturday morning in late September, Ethan woke to find Lily standing beside his bed, a serious expression on her young face. Daddy, I need to ask you something important. He sat up immediately, alert. What is it, sweetheart? Are you going to marry Jennifer? The question was direct and unambiguous. Ethan took a breath, choosing his words carefully. I don't know yet. Marriage is a big decision. Why do you ask? Because if you are, I want to help pick the ring. Mommy would want me to make sure it's pretty. Ethan felt tears prick his eyes. You think Mommy would be okay with me marrying Jennifer? I think Mommy would want you to be happy. And Jennifer makes you happy. I see it on your face. Lily climbed onto the bed, settling beside him. You smile more now. You laugh at Emma's jokes even when they are not funny. You seem like you're actually here instead of always thinking about work. When did you get so observant? I've always been observant. I just didn't say things before because I was worried it would make you sad. The admission broke his heart. His 7-year-old daughter had been monitoring his emotional state, protecting him from difficult conversations, because she recognized his fragility. What kind of burden was that for a child to carry? Lily, you never have to protect my feelings. If you have questions or concerns, you can always talk to me. Always. I'm the parent. Taking care of you is my job, not the other way around. I know, but I love you. So, I want you to be okay. Ethan pulled her into a fierce hug. I am okay. Really okay. For the first time in almost 2 years, I'm actually okay. And you're a big part of that. Your love and your patience and your wisdom that seems way beyond your years. They sat together in comfortable silence before Lily spoke again. So, about the ring. Ethan laughed. I promise if I decide to propose to Jennifer, you'll be the first person I consult about ring selection. Good, because I have opinions. 2 weeks later, Ethan sat across from Jennifer at their favorite restaurant, the one where they'd had their first official date. The girls were at Jennifer's brother's house for the evening, giving them rare uninterrupted time together. I need to talk to you about something, Ethan said, his heart racing despite having rehearsed this conversation a dozen times. Jennifer sat down her wine glass, concern flickering across her face. That sounds ominous. It's not. At least I hope it's not. He reached across the table, taking her hand. We've been together for 8 months. Our families have blended beautifully. The girls adore each other. We've built something real and sustainable and good. We have, Jennifer agreed, her voice soft. I know it hasn't been very long by traditional standards. And I know we are both still healing from losing our first spouses. But I also know that I love you completely, genuinely, without reservation. You make me want to be braver, kinder, more present. You've helped me become someone I actually like again. Ethan, where is this going? He took a breath, steadying himself. I want to marry you. Not tomorrow or next month. We can have a long engagement. Plan carefully. Make sure the girls are ready. But I want you to know my intentions are serious. I want to build a life with you. A real permanent committed life. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Are you proposing? Not officially. Not without Lily helping me pick a ring. He smiled at her confusion. She insisted she be consulted. Something about making sure her mother would approve of my choice. Jennifer laughed through her tears. That sounds like Lily. So, I'm asking if you'd be open to the idea. If someday, when the timing feels right for everyone, you'd consider marrying me. Yes? Jennifer squeezed his hand. Yes, I'd consider it. I'd more than consider it. I love you, Ethan. I want to build a life with you, too. They sat in the restaurant, holding hands across the table, both crying happy tears, while other diners pretended not to notice. It wasn't a traditional proposal, but then nothing about their relationship had been traditional. They were two people who'd loved and lost, found each other in grief's aftermath, and chosen to build something new without forgetting what came before. 3 months later in mid-December, Ethan officially proposed on the anniversary of the night Victoria had fired him. He'd planned it carefully with Lily's enthusiastic input. The four of them were decorating Jennifer's Christmas tree when Ethan pulled out the ring box. Lily had indeed had strong opinions about the design and got down on one knee. Jennifer Martinez, you've made this year the best of my life. You've loved me and Lily with patience and generosity. You've shown me that my heart is big enough to hold both grief and joy. Will you marry me? Jennifer's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming. Yes, yes, of course, yes. The girls erupted in squeals of delight, jumping up and down and hugging each other. Ethan slipped the ring onto Jennifer's finger, then pulled her into a kiss while Lily and Emma cheered. That evening, after the girls had finally exhausted themselves and fallen asleep on the couch, surrounded by wrapping paper and ornament boxes, Ethan and Jennifer sat in her kitchen drinking hot chocolate. I can't believe this is real, Jennifer said, admiring the ring on her finger. A year ago, I was alone and convinced I'd never feel this way about anyone again. A year ago, I was working myself to death in calling it dedication. Ethan pulled her close. It's amazing what can change when you let people help you. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Saw the Facebook announcement. Congratulations. You've earned every bit of happiness you found. Thank you for everything. Starting with that midnight firing. Best management decision I ever made. Though, let's be clear. You did the hard work. We learned from each other. We did. Merry Christmas, Ethan. Merry Christmas, Victoria. Ethan set his phone down and looked around Jennifer's house. At the crooked Christmas tree they decorated together, at the girls asleep on the couch, at the woman he loved sitting beside him. Outside, snow had begun to fall, blanketing the world in quiet white. A year ago, he'd stood in his doorway, staring at Victoria in shock and terror, certain his life was ending. He'd been wrong. His old life had been ending, the life of exhaustion and grief and barely controlled chaos. But from those ashes, something better had emerged. A life of presence and connection, of sustainable success and genuine joy, of love that honored the past while embracing the future. The knock that had seemed like destruction had actually been salvation. Victoria had fired him from survival mode, and in doing so, had hired him back into the fullness of living. She'd given him the greatest gift possible, the chance to become someone whole again, someone capable of loving and being loved, someone who could look at his daughter and his fiancé and feel gratitude instead of just guilt. Lily stirred on the couch, opened her eyes sleepily, and smiled when she saw them. Is this real? We are really going to be a family. We already are a family, sweetheart, Ethan said. This just makes it official. Good. Lily closed her eyes again, content. Mommy would be happy. I know she would. Ethan believed that, too. Sarah would want this for him. Would celebrate his healing, his growth, his capacity for continued love. She'd want Lily to have the stability of a blended family, the joy of a sister friend, the gift of watching her father choose happiness instead of martyrdom. As Jennifer rested her head on his shoulder and the girls slept peacefully nearby, Ethan felt the final pieces of himself click into place. He was no longer the ghost who'd existed on 4 hours of sleep and pure adrenaline. He was a father, a partner, a leader, a consultant making meaningful change. He was someone who'd been broken and had chosen to heal. Someone who'd been saved by an uncomfortable intervention and had used that salvation to build something beautiful. The night he was fired had been the night he finally started living.